Welcome to the Cooking Everything Outdoors show. Today we're making the world's best Dutch oven ribs. Gary House, the Outdoor Cook, Cooking Everything Outdoors show. I hope you try this at home. World's best Dutch oven ribs. Kid you not, I don't think I have a recipe on the Cooking Outdoors website that gets more compliments than this rib recipe. I've done it at Dutch oven dogs, which are Dutch oven gatherings, and people still come back to me and say those are the best ribs I've ever had. So I'll leave it up to you, but for now I think the title is pretty darn appropriate. I'm using a oval Dutch oven roaster, and this is from Cabela's, and I believe it's about 16 inches long. It's not a traditional Dutch oven that you would normally see. It has no legs on it, so it's not designed for camp cooking, if you will, but it works fantastic for camp cooking. There are some tricks to using this, and I'm going to show you those next. In order to use this oval roaster with charcoal, we need to get it up and elevated, and that's really simple to do. What you need to have are two of these lid trivets. Now typically they go in this position here, but I find that the oval roaster will slip off it if it's in this position. So we're just going to turn it over. We'll need two of those, and those will go on the bottom of the Dutch oven, and those are going to elevate them or elevate the Dutch oven from the coals. And we'll put a layer of coals on the bottom. And then with a normal Dutch oven, you typically have a rather large rim around it to hold the charcoal in. And this one has a small rim. So we're going to be a little bit more careful with putting our charcoal on the top of this. And I highly recommend using a low ash content charcoal. I use when I'm using this, and one of the charcoals that I like to use is Shell's coconut charcoal. It's just fantastic, very little ash, steady burning product. So you might want to look them up and see what you can find on that product, because it's really, really good. So what goes into the world's best Dutch oven ribs? The basic ingredients are surprisingly simple. What we're going to do is we're going to put a layer of vegetables, specifically a red and yellow bell pepper, and a yellow, maybe yellow to me, but it's a red onion. We're going to slice those and we're going to lay them on the bottom. Then we're going to take our ribs. Now I'm going to be using St. Louis cut pork ribs, and we're going to put a honey mustard binder on there. Once that's been coated on the ribs, I'm going to apply my rub to it. Then we're going to take our beer, and this is a Guinness Stout. It's room temperature warm. And we're going to pour that into the Dutch oven. And then on top of the ribs, we're going to be applying a barbecue sauce. You can use whatever you want. I am really partial to Trader Joe's Kansas City barbecue sauce. I just keep going back to this and going back to this and going back to this. So I really, really enjoy it. And that's pretty simple. That's the recipe. I'm going to show you how I cut it up and get it prepared. Okay, first things first, sharp knife. Take our bell peppers. We're going to de-seed them. Then I want ringlets, just like that. As fresh a bell pepper as you can get. And we're going to use all of it. Simple as that. Take a red one. See that? Get our ringlets. I guess you could probably leave the seeds in. I can't see where there would be any advantage to that other than maybe saving you a couple steps. There are some seeds that are going to end up in this, but it's not a big issue. And then our onion, we need to do the same. Just get that peeled off as best you can. Sometimes they're a little tricky. Luckily this one doesn't have me crying yet. It is making quite the mess. Would you expect anything less? Okay. And then get some ringlets out of this. This is a fairly large red onion. So once we've got this done, and these are about 1/4 inch slices on everything. That's about what we're looking for. Let me clean up this mess a little bit and I'll show you how to start layering the Dutch oven. What we are going to do is basically use the vegetables to elevate the ribs, and that's going to help keep it from completely being boiled in the cooking process. Let me show you how we'll basically just layer this out. And I find it doesn't have to be overwhelmingly perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but we're just looking for some layers here, and you can mix them up, and you can do some onion, you can do some bell pepper, but you can see we're getting some height in the bottom of this pan, and that's what we're looking for. We are going to be partially not parboiling, but partially boiling these a little bit, and we're going to be using some steaming and roasting, baking, if you will, in our cooking process here. But let me tell you that all this stuff in the bottom, and basically what it's going to do is it's going to cook in the beer, in the rib juices, get some of the barbecue sauce. It's going to get some of the rub on there, and it's going to make the most incredible slop you've ever tasted in the bottom of a pan. I kid you not. It's probably one of the better parts of this whole dish. Okay, let's get our ribs going. These are my St. Louis cut pork ribs. I've already removed the membrane from the back, and now all we have to do is apply our honey mustard binder, and it's honey mustard. I'm going to put a light coat on all sides of the ribs, and let's do that now. But first, to facilitate cleanup, we'll need some of these bad boys. Or not. It's entirely up to you. Let's do this. No mustard. Get that nicely coated on the... You don't have to do the mustard binder. I just really like it. It adds a bit of a tang, but it really allows the rub that you apply to adhere to the food and stick nicely. Okay. So we've got that going. And now what we need to do is apply our rub. I need to get a little of this off here. What I have here is a sweet and hot, I call it a sweet heat pork rub. I use this on my ribs all the time. It's a winning formula that I've used for many years. And we just really want to work this into our ribs nicely. I almost think I don't have enough rub here, but let's see how it goes. Sink or swim, baby, on the Cooking Everything Outdoors show. That's the way it goes. Okay. Yeah. I think this is going to be fine. So now, we need to get these into the Dutch oven. Let me clean up a bit, and I'll show you how to do that. So let's get our ribs into our oval roaster. Nice. Just set them right in there, right on top of the bell peppers and onions. Now, some of you may not have an oval roaster and all you have is a Dutch oven. It will work just the same. Just cut your rack of ribs in half and you can set them in a 14 or a 16-inch Dutch oven. You could even stack them if all you have is a 12-inch Dutch oven. It does work, but make sure that if you do stack your ribs, that you put your barbecue sauce on the first layer and then put your other one on top of that, or you're going to miss out on some good flavors. So, let's talk about our barbecue sauce. And all I do with this, once I get the child-proof wrapper off, go figure, I'm going to probably need a knife. Let's see if we can force this off. All right, so I'm just going to basically pour the sauce on top of this. And as it cooks, it's going to ooze out over the ribs. I'm not even going to bother anything more than that. I'm going to fix this cap, and that's that. Now, for the cooking fluid, the vegetables are going to create some fluid in there, the ribs are going to create some fluid in there, but I like to add a little bit something extra. And that's my Guinness. And I tell you, I'm so happy this comes in a 6-pack because I only need one beer for this recipe, and you know where the rest is going. And we'll just pour the whole bottle in the bottom there. And you can see that, the fluid's not touching the ribs. And as those vegetables break down a little bit later on, that's going to settle down in there. And that's it. I'm going to show you how to set up the charcoal. Get these bad boys cooking. My charcoal is ready to go. I've got a full container here. I won't need that much, but a little overkill never hurt me. I'm going to set this charcoal. I'm going to pour a little bit out on each side of my table here. That's going to make it easier for me to place my stands. So these gloves, please, really hot. And so I'm going to set them like so, which is going to be just a little bit like that, about the width of the Dutch oven. And then I'm going to place a ring of charcoal around the bottom of my Dutch oven. And this is going to be about 16 coals on the bottom, roughly. About like that. So we got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, about 14 here. And we'll set our Dutch oven down. Now, one of the reasons I'm talking about gloves a lot is because one of the difficult things about this cooking process is getting this lid off of here, and it's going to be extremely hot. And you're going to need gloves to do it. There's no lid lifters to pull this up. So let's take our Dutch oven here. Got it settled. The coals look really good around the bottom. I got the heat rising. And now I'm going to put about 16 on the, well, close to 16 on the top. We'll count them out here. Boy, this is high definition. You could probably see me sweating because these coals are adding to the daytime temperature here. So let's get another one on there, and we're just using the ring method, which is basically ringing the top of the Dutch oven. Not going to go too heavy there. We've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 17, so it's pretty close. And we're going to let this cook for about probably 45 minutes. These charcoals are going to last me, and it's going to get pretty hot in there. You're going to start smelling this really, really quickly. It's going to start smelling incredible. But this cooking process is going to take 2.5 to 3.5 hours. Probably closer to 2.5 hours is what I'm guessing. It's a fairly decent rack of ribs. So I'll show you how I add more charcoal to this as we get cooking here. So it's been about 45 minutes now, and the coals are starting to break down. About the 35-minute mark, I started up some fresh coals, and basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to add just a few more on the bottom, but even more on top, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Won't take much more coals. I think that we used, what, 30, 32, 33 when we first started this, and really all I'm going to be doing is adding probably about 12 to 15 more coals at this point. And I'm just going to continue that process until those ribs are done. So we got 4, 8, 9, about 10 on the top, and just a few around the bottom. Try not to burn my face here as I do this. A chimney, charcoal chimney full of charcoal is quite hot. So there's 3, 4, 5, 6, about 8 on the bottom. I think that's going to be more than enough to keep our cooking to continue. So right at this point, and you can even see the steam wisping up because all those juices are really perking in there and flavorizing that meat, and slow steaming it. It's roasting at the same time. The flavors and the smell is just absolutely incredible. And I haven't even looked yet, but I'm going to say we're probably a good hour more to go on these ribs, and then we'll take a peek at the 2-hour mark. So we're just about at the 1-hour mark right now. Our ribs have been on for about 2 hours now. I think it's time to take a look and see where we're at. Gloves on. I'm going to try to get behind this thing so you can see. And very carefully you need to grab the handles here. And we don't want to get any ashes in there. And wow, look at that. I have to tell you, this smells absolutely phenomenal. Time to plate these bad boys up. Now, you can, as I normally do, Just cut the ribs right in the slop here and serve them up that way. They're really, really good. You could also put them on a platter if you had a big enough platter. I don't, but here's a point that I've used this before in other dishes, but the lid for this oval roaster makes a mighty fine serving platter. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to get these ribs out of here, and we're going to serve them up on that. Simply up and on the platter. I want to get some of this flavor out of here. I got to tell you that these, I'm going to make a heck of a mess out of my tablecloth, but that these are some of the best veggies you possibly have had. All these juices that are in here, certainly good for serving up on top of the ribs. And as always, it takes just a couple seconds for the flies to show up. But those look great. Now, you can cook these to competition crispness. You can cook them till they fall off the bone. You can cook them however you like to enjoy them. I have these right where I want them, and I must say they do look pretty darn good. So we're having ribs. Hope you try this. I think they're the world's best. Certainly willing to accept any and all takers on Dutch oven ribs. I want to point out that the show Cooking Everything Outdoors is sponsored by Camp Chef, OutdoorCooking.com, and Island Grillstone. And I hope you go and visit my sponsors because they make all of this happen. You can find us on iTunes, on YouTube, on Blip TV, iFood, everywhere, including Facebook. And I do hope you take a few minutes to stop by and let me know what you think. And this is Gary House, Cooking Everything Outdoors, world's best Dutch oven ribs.